Good evening, Demon fans, and welcome back to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and well, this should have been called weeks ago, but I was stubbornly holding out hope that we could turn this train wreck of a season around, but 2019 is officially over. Or is it? Yes, I think it is over. Grapeviney, is it over?
Surprising attitude from you, Andy, because I think we've reached a pretty exciting juncture of the season. If we can have just a narrow loss to West Coast this week and Carlton don't beat Gold Coast by too much, I think there's a really strong chance that we can hold on to 16th spot. So, exciting times.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, like when you think about, how you want the rest of the season to unfold. There's lots of schools of thought. People want to go out fighting, and I want to see us, but I also want to see us try things. Look, for weeks now, finals has probably been gone, even though it was a mathematical chance. I'd like to try things, but in the end, I won't be too disappointed if we manage to hang on to 16th or even 17th, and I'll bank that draft pick, and I'll bank a good draw next year, because I'm hoping that this is an aberration, and hoping things can turn around. And I've got, like, in my notes for later, sort of my reasons why I think that is an aberration. But holding out hope. But I won't be disappointed. I don't want to finish bottom. I don't think I want to take a wooden spoon home. So let's hope that Gold Coast are the bastard case that we think they are.
Yep.
The game on the weekend, the umpiring was terrible, but both ways. Some of their decisions, and we've talked about this in weeks with other games as well, it was just mystifying, some of the decisions, and that Gawn one in particular, it cost us a goal. It was a disgraceful decision.
It sure did, big boy. And Max was as perplexed as anyone. And it was outrageous on the day. And that first one in the contest in the pocket, but then there was also that second one at the centre bounce. And they paused that on television last night at the crucial point, and both players' hands were in the others, and it was a normal ruck contest.
Yeah.
And they just pointed out the absurdity of it. This was on the couch. But I think everybody that was there on the day and saw it on telly would have agreed with that, including the Dogs fans.
Yeah, and so there were a couple ball ups. Sometimes and I've noticed this the past couple of weeks. I haven't watched too many other games, so I don't know whether it's happening in others, but sometimes they're not recalling the ball when it's clearly sort of disadvantaging one of the ruckmen, and I don't know what's going on with these umpires, but something's got to change, because it's not great. It's not a great look.
No, but look, they didn't cost us the game on the weekend.
No.
As bad as the umpiring was. Look, to be honest, going in, I always thought it was going to be a struggle. I wondered where we were going to kick our goals. Harrison Petty did really well, snared three himself, and showed a bit of spunk, taking some good marks there. But look, when we got to three-quarter time, I thought the same thing. I wondered where the goals were going to come from in the last quarter, and they didn't come. And when you look at the forward line that we put out, it was always going to be a tough ask, I think.
Yeah.
So we did pretty well to get as close as we did.
Yeah, credit to the Ds, because I did expect that. It was one of those games where we were sort of in it the whole way, but I was always expecting them to sort of run away with it. And perhaps if they had been a bit more accurate early on in the third quarter, it might have been sort of well beyond our reach going into the last. But we were sort of always there, but I never really thought that we would win the game. But we did have our chances, considering they did kick in accurately in the third. We had our chances, and had we kicked accurately, and Petrarca, if he had kicked that goal early in the last, maybe
we take the lead.
They take the lead, get our noses in front. Momentum's a funny thing, but they definitely had the crowd there. Every time they got a free kick or didn't get a free kick, it was deafening. I think there was only 26,000, but geez, I don't know if there was 5,000 Melbourne fans there, because it was like we were an away team, and not just an away team, but an interstate team. Where are all the D's fans?
I've got to confess, I was not among the 26,000. And when you say where are all the D fans, I was one who stayed away. My membership is a home and away membership, and I would normally go to all those Docklands games, but I missed this week, and it was a combination of the train situation, which has plagued us all season for those of us living in the south of the city, the crappy weather.
It's an indoor stadium, you realise that?
Yeah, but just crappy weather getting to and from the ground, and obviously the poor season. And I've got to say, my enthusiasm has really waned. I don't even know what round it is. I don't know when it finishes. I'm praying to God it's soon. I just want it to be over, and let's start afresh into 2020.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that. I just want this season to end. I don't know what I'm going to do in September. I might have to go away because it'll just kill me after the excitement of September last year and being back amongst it after 10 years in the wilderness. I finally last year got to enjoy September again, and it's going to kill me this year. Seeing some crap teams that probably don't deserve to be there, but then again, we don't deserve to be there this year. We'll do some housekeeping here. If you'd like to join the program tonight to discuss anything we talk about, give us a call, 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666, or give us a call on Skype at Demonland31. We love hearing from Demonlanders and listeners of the show. We love your contributions and hearing other voices. If you're listening to the show live, join us in the chat room, demonland.com/podcast. If you're listening at your leisure via SoundCloud on demonland.com or via Apple or an Android podcasting app, be sure to give us a subscribe. You'll receive updates when a new show drops. And don't forget to leave us favourable reviews. It helps more people find us. We're also on Spotify now, so if you want to listen to the show that way, you can do that. Just head over to demonland.com to find the links to your preferred method of listening. All right. We'll get back onto it. I'll talk about a couple of the negatives from the game, in particular some of the players. Fritsch, now, he's a funny one. He had 12 possessions at 50% disposal efficiency. I did like the fact that we moved him up forward. I think he is a forward. Not liking his game down back this year, so I'm happy that he's up forward. His decision to play on and miss that goal is probably inexcusable. And given the fact that we don't have a couple of forwards out there with D-Mac, Weed, Smith's out, Melksham's out, I think he needs to be played up forward now. I'm not in the camp to drop him. I know there are some people saying that, but I think
he's started to work his way back into a bit of form, and that's going to be helped by the move up the ground.
Yep.
And yes, some of the execution and the disposal is still off a little bit, but there's also signs that it's coming back on. So, absolutely, yeah, not a huge worry for mine. Persist and will come good.
Mitch Hannon has barely got out of the blocks since his return this year. 3 disposals at 33% efficiency.
Now, one effective disposal.
Yeah, there were a number of people on Demonland saying they didn't even know he was playing until they saw he got a possession later in the game. Look, I think
he's a ghost at the moment.
We've said it. He got into the team out of necessity with injuries, and I think they rushed him back. We've said this for a few weeks. He wasn't able to sort of find form, and he hasn't been able to find form in the ones. It's one of those things that we don't even have the cattle in the twos at the moment.
The interesting thing with Hannon was I noticed in one of the training reports, it might not have been from this week, it might have been the week before, that Hannon was away to the side doing specky practice.
Really?
Right? So with the bag. And I thought, I nearly posted on the training thread, and then I didn't have time or something. But I thought, that's strange. Of all the things to be working on, you're practicing taking speckies. And I don't really understand that bag work. Maybe, for your main forward.
Or ruckman.
But, or ruckman, or I don't know. Even then, I don't really understand. That's what we did as kids.
Well, they use that bag
in the backyard. Bend over and let someone take a screamer over you. So, I found it for a guy who can't get anywhere near the footy. When he does, he's going at 33%. Could be doing other things other than specky stuff. I don't know, maybe to build his confidence.
Well, those bags are for ruckman, really, ruck work, not really for specky. Speckies, as you say.
Yeah, but they do the specky training occasionally. You see it on the news.
I don't like it.
What for?
Yeah. Nibbler is another one. I've been down on this guy all year. I don't think I can accept him being in the team anymore. From memory, he had 2 snaps from about 30 or 40 metres out, and he couldn't make the distance. And I've been down on quite a few players that we've got that don't have that penetration in the snaps. And I saw a Western Bulldogs player. I think he actually missed the goal, but he got the ball from 45 out and snapped, and almost went over the goal umpire's head. We don't have anyone that.
No, there's a problem with the snapping. You're right. A lot of them don't make the distance, and Petraka has a problem with snapping as well. As in, he actually doesn't sort of curve the ball around. He hits it fat. Yeah. And more, 99% of his snaps go straight up in the air or across the ground.
Yeah.
They actually don't have that curve back in them at all. So he's hitting them in the wrong spot and missing a lot of easy snaps. Most of his points this year are from snaps about 20 metres out, and they're all over the place. But Nibbler is problematic. He's in a very Tommy Bug-esque kind of situation in that he's either breaking the chain at the moment or failing to capitalise on it. Consecutive weeks now, he's had the ball about 20 metres out straight in front, and this week it was a banana kick that missed everything and everyone. Again, I don't know whether it was aimed at a player or the goals, but it ended up out on the full. And you just think, where are these possessions going? And so far off. So, look, I don't like to bash players, and I don't engage in it online, but hard to justify his spot at the moment, other than there's a lack of players to come in and replace in the twos, unfortunately.
If Nibbler was kicking goals or creating some goals, maybe, but I don't think he's contributing enough, and I'd prefer to see JKH play. Perhaps we've said he's playing for his career and they're not giving him that chance. Maybe they don't see anything in him and don't see any point. But then maybe give Toby Bedford or Cade Chandler a run to see, particularly now, given that the year's done, to see if these guys can add some spark, because we just don't have any spark in the forward line at the moment.
Yeah.
And
there was a story a few weeks ago that we're looking at a 2-year extension for Nibbler, and I'd be surprised if that comes to bear, and that's not the sign of a healthy list. I think at his absolute best, he's a fill-in player who can perhaps fill a role in an emergency situation, but I just don't see him as part of the plan going forward.
We've said it a few times this year, in particular, that about fill-in players, that in terms of depth, that I always thought we had really good depth, and maybe we do, but I think we've been playing large chunks of our depth players together, and I don't think it just doesn't work and doesn't help out when you've obviously we've had the injury issues all year, and I think at best Nibbler probably is depth player.
Yeah. George in the Out has asked in the chat room, is it a coaching instruction to always look for a better option in the forward line, and players seem unwilling to take on the game and do it themselves. It certainly seemed that way. Oliver handball to Brayshaw when,
Yep.
the goal was begging there. He was on his good foot. Why not take the shot? I think we saw the benefits of when teamwork is working well last year. There was actually good sharing of the ball around. I think the oversharing of it that we're seeing at the moment comes with a lack of confidence.
That's the problem. It's oversharing.
Failure to connect. So none of them are on the same page as anyone else.
It's last year,
and the whole thing is just a mess basically inside 50.
Last year it was smart, passing and sharing around.
Yep.
This year it's just manic and it's a lack of confidence. I don't want to kick the goal. Maybe it's not that, but that's what it seems like to me. And that Oliver to Brayshaw, there was no need to go to Brayshaw because I think he was under pressure when, or then put himself into pressure. Yeah, Oliver could have done the job himself, and it's costing us.
And look, Nibbler last year, he was part of that team play that produced many goals. He got on the end of a few himself and was involved in the chains otherwise, but the connection's not there this year, and it's missing for many of them.
We mentioned Brayshaw. I think he's got to be injured, and not just this week. I think he spent some time off the ground, but I think there has to be some type of injury going with him. We've said it for a number of weeks, and I know I keep saying things like we've been saying it for weeks. If there's anything remotely pointing towards any type of injury, then get him out of the team because we need him right for next year. He had an interrupted pre-season with some back issues. I don't know if it's the same thing. We've barely seen glimpses of the 2018 form from him, so it's important that he's right to go from day one of next year's pre-season. He's a shadow of last year, so I hope there is an injury excuse here because otherwise his form has been extremely disappointing for mine.
Yeah, yep. It's hard to disagree with any of that, unfortunately. Very disappointing. And look, we don't know whether it's an injury or not, but just cross your fingers that the fog clears and sunshine returns and shines its light on Angus.
There's a thread on Demonland that was started in mid-June calling to consider trading Brayshaw. I'm personally not in that camp, and as we saw, like last year, what he can do at his best.
No, it's a no for mine.
I was going to ask you, and I knew what you would say, so I'll ask you this question. Are you opening to listening to other clubs in terms of any of our stars? Or perhaps I'll ask you, who's untouchable?
Well, I was just about to say that Brayshaw perhaps wouldn't be untouchable, if there were moves involving, Whitfields or Kellys and...
We've got to be realistically,
who look, arguably are better than Brayshaw, so I sort of can't see those straight things.
No, but if there was a two-player or a draft pick in that...
Look, there's a core midfield group there that is pretty much off the table, I would have thought. I can't see Viney going anywhere.
No.
You can't touch Oliver.
Yep. Gawn.
I wouldn't be giving away Petrarca. Gawn's not going anywhere. Yep. I wouldn't be giving away Brayshaw. And I wouldn't be looking to get rid of Wiedemann at this point either. And some people are talking about that and saying Petty showed more in one game than Sam's ever shown. And look, as I said, well done to Petty for his game on the weekend. But, it was one game. I'm not getting rid of Wiedemann or anyone else on the back of that. Well, look, you want the club to be active and creative at the end of the year, and we need to be creative in terms of the way we continue to refine the list. But some of the suggestions online, baby going out with the bathwater.
Well, you can understand there's a lot of hysterics going on considering the season we've had. So you're going to get that, and I'm sure leading into the trade period, and you'll hear more of that. You talked about Petty. I was a big fan of the experiment to to move him up forward. It's come out of necessity. I don't think they would have done it had we had a full complement of players available.
Masterstroke.
Yeah, look, we've got pretty much our three preferred forwards out with T-Mac, Wiedemann, Tim Smith, and then maybe a fourth even. They were going to play Joel Smith up forward as well. So it's happened at a time where we've needed to put someone up there. I mean, you can't really... There's not many teams which don't have any of their first 3-4 picks of forwards in the team, and then I'll put another one. Melksham's even in there, even though he's not a key forward, but he is a big part of that forward line. I think they should continue to explore Petty as a forward for the rest of the year, even when Wiedemann comes back. Just on this one game, I think he played better than Sam has all year, but as you said, it's just one game. I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves, just like a lot of people said based on Weed's final against Geelong. Let's not get ahead of ourselves for that one game that he played. But I'd like to see, considering I think he took 5 marks, he's kicked 3 goals, his hands look good. Let's persist for the rest of the year and let's see what we can do. Maybe we can turn him into a forward, just like Nita started up back and turned around. Maybe not saying we've got another David Neitz on our hands, but
that'd be good. Look,
it's a good
we
effort.
can do it now because the back line's back. So he's not needed to fill in the holes that existed, down in the back line for earlier in the season. So.
And I liked some of his work sort of up the ground, sort of like Jesse sort of did last year. So if we had T-Mac
running,
if we had T-Mac down in the goal square and had him sort of running up the ground a little bit, I really like his hands and I liked what I saw this week. So let's persist with it.
D. Zephyr asks in the chat room, why does it seem so hard for us to clear from our kickings? Which was a good question, particularly in the third quarter when the Dogs kicked 27 points or whatever it was, consecutive points, and we didn't seem to get it outside 50 in all that time. So, yeah.
I don't know why. I think kickings, for as long as I've known the D's, I don't think we've ever been successful in being able to clear from our kick-ins.
Danny Hughes had such a big kick that it tended to go towards the centre of the ground when he kicked in.
It just seems every other team's using the new rule better than we are. I think we're still tending to just sort of chip it around and sort of slowly get out of it. And then if we do have a long kick outside of 50, it just sort of comes straight back in. So I don't know what the solution there is.
Nope, nor do I.
The Bruce experiment wasn't exactly a resounding success, but it also wasn't the ideal situation. He can't be... I don't think he could be expected to be the key forward. I would love to see him with a fit and firing T-Mac. I would have liked him to clunk a few of those marks, but to be fair, every time the ball was kicked to him, it was kicked up in the air and he had 2 or 3 Bulldogs flying to spoil.
It's not ideal. Gorn and or Bruce being the sole focus there, but actually he probably missed a few marks that he should have taken. There are a couple that he could have clunked.
Yeah, there were a couple
that slipped through, but that happens.
I'm not.
As you say, it wasn't a resounding success, not the best of circumstances, and I trust he'll probably proceed with it. Because, do we know about Weed?
The article that just came out sort of an hour or two ago, just the Misson report, said he's a 50-50, and I think the same is for Tim Smith. So,
right.
And Weed, as Whispering Jack loves to say, the mystery injury of the week just came out of nowhere, calf injury. We seem to have 1 or 2 of those a week, and it's getting a bit frustrating this year. Yeah, with Prusy, I'd like to see him with T-Mac in the team. Obviously, we're not going to see it this year, or even Weed if you're going to play three talls. But let's be honest, I think if you have those two guys in there, I don't think Goodwin's going to play a big third tall like Bruce in there. I don't know. But I want to see the experiment continue for the rest of the year. Just let Max and him sort of play together while we don't have T-Mac in the team, and maybe just give him some minutes.
Yep. And look, then you've got Fritsch and Petraka as sort of medium-sized forwards who can also provide an option down there.
Yep. We saw
Track's set shot kicking is fine from a distance, isn't it?
Yes. Well, he kicked
perfectly confident, and yet you can see the pressure when he's closer to goal.
Kicked a beauty sort of on an angle early in the game, and then I think we said earlier that the one that he missed was quite costly.
Slight angle. Yep.
But yeah, there's a lot being said about the drop of his how high he drops the ball. I'd like them to look at that over. I would have thought they would have already looked at it, but I don't know. We saw the return of Lever and Jetta, and I think they'll both be better for the run. Both looked a little rusty, but that's to be expected. Jetta made some...
don't think Nev could go any worse for the run.
He made some critical errors, that missed ball. But I'll put it down to a lack of preparation. You know, if we've seen players rush back all year, maybe he was rushed back too quickly. And we know that Jetta would probably be just as filthy about some of those incidents.
He'd be very hard on himself. He's very... we know how sort of self-critical he is, and how much he doesn't want to let his teammates down. But he's got plenty of credits in the bank, so even the harshest of critics would have forgiven him a bad game on the weekend.
Well, I did see some, I can't remember who it was, I'd love to name and shame them, someone on Demonland said that he's done, Jetta's cooked, and I can't disagree with more. I think he's still got some great football left in him, so shame on you, whoever said that. Next time you will be named.
I don't think Nev would agree with that assessment
no,
so.
No, I don't think so. The reception on Demonland was mixed for Lockhart. Didn't get a lot of the ball, but I thought he did a good job on JJ.
Didn't do a lot, JJ.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And we did pretty well to stop their run, that running game. What we didn't do well was stopping Dunkley's brother, unfortunately.
Yeah, did we get the wrong brother? We always get the wrong brother, but this one went before we got ours, so I don't think we can call that one. He's a good player there, Dunkley.
He had a fantastic game.
Yeah, did we not put anyone on him?
Well, not a hard tag, I don't think.
Our hard tags.
I saw Angus going with him, but whether he was,
Harms was so good with the hard tags last year. Why are we not doing that this year? I admit I wasn't having a look at that during the game, and I haven't watched the game again.
So nor have I. I don't think Harms was on him.
Why wouldn't you do that? Guy's been so damaging. He had, I think at half time, he had 20 odd possessions already. I think you'd say, all right, let's change our game plan, and that's probably something that a lot of people have been critical about Goodwin, that he's too slow to make moves or too stubborn to make any moves at all. And that's one that I would have thought would be a no-brainer. Too much handballing to stationary targets, or again, handballs too high or too low, or bullets to a guy who's centimetre away. It's
again, this is just a lack of connection.
Yep.
And it manifests in myriad ways.
And I said this last week, we really do not have any quality small forwards, and this is something I think we really have to go in hard when we're at trade week. Perhaps pinch someone from somewhere. We might have to give up something to get it, but we really need it. You watch some other teams, and we just don't have, West Coast, Essendon with Tip and Woody. We just need someone with a bit of spark that knows where the goals are, and we just got no one on the deck when the ball hits the ground. I think I'm not.
You need someone doing what Jeffy was doing a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that's really where we're deficient. I think our backline is strong, and if we can get all of them on the park, like where the band's getting back together, the backline, and I think in a few weeks, and that'll be the end of the year, but Lever will work in with May and everyone else, and we've got Hoare as well. Our mids, I think, can bounce back to 2018 form with full pre-seasons under their belt. So I'm not worried about our midfield. All of them seem to have some injury and an interrupted pre-season, and we know that's been a killer. Even though we've had them all year, it just hasn't been the same as last year, and I think that comes down to the pre-season. Tall forwards, if T-Mac can be playing next year the same way he did in the past few weeks before he got injured, as opposed to the first half of the season, I'm not worried with him, and whether Petty and Wiedemann steps up to the plate as well. So I'm not worried about our tall forwards, not worried about our midfield or our back line. We really just need some small forwards, I think, to add to our game, half forwards, because that's where I think we're falling down at the moment. Yep. Hannon, Nibbler, it's just not working.
Nope.
Salem, once again, shows his class. Maxi, they've been probably the two only consistent shining lights this year.
Yeah. Marty Hall might squeeze into that too. He was dropped early, and now he's injured, unfortunately, but... finally, we saw Jack Viney getting a bit of step and toe back in his game.
Jack had a good game. My one criticism is his kicking. I think there's a thread on Demonland talking about his kicking, and I don't think that's going to improve, but I think the last couple of weeks has shown a lot more. But yeah, some of the kicking, he just bangs it in, and I think that's been a criticism of him along the way, and...
He's a better kick than his dad, though.
Yes.
Todd was a terrible, terrible kick, and it really limited his impact as a footballer for a part of his career. And then in the last few years, he actually became a really good kick. A little bit like Robbo in front of goals, sort of that transformation. So Jack's not the worst kick.
No.
But I think, for me, most of it is decision-making rather than execution. I think he can actually be a pretty good kick, but he's either not looking or looking and taking the wrong option too often this year. So, yeah, for mine, that's where the improvement or the change needs to come.
I was happy with Petraka's game. He stepped it up sort of each week, last couple of weeks. I'd love to see a 4-quarter effort for him. A lot of people were critical of him for sort of going missing in the last quarter.
Well, this goes back to George's point, because before, at some stage in that final quarter, he had the ball on the boundary line about 30 out, and he had the chance to have a shot, and it was a difficult shot, but he could have taken the game on, as George said, and said, I'm going to have a crack here. But he tried to centre it, and it got picked off. So, had that worked and had he kicked the goal that he missed, then that's 2 goals in the last quarter, or a goal and an assist in the last quarter, and he would have been effectively the match winner.
Yeah.
So he's sort of playing really well in his role, but could be better still.
There's really a lot of spark in his game now. He's breaking through, and really wrapped with him. I think he's definitely improved out of sight this year. I mean, we knew they would get to there, but doing it on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to do the fend off, does he? Because he's just so strong. He just sort of barges his way through the packs. So he's good to watch when he's like that, and he's getting more confidence
Yeah, it's
in
definitely a
in his
confidence.
ability to do that. So it's good to watch.
Yeah. I was wrapped with really like Stephen May. I think we've justified that pick, giving up that the trade, the pick. I just love it when the ball's in his hand. Obviously, would have liked him to have kicked that goal in the last. And I can't wait to see him rock up day one of pre-season, fit and firing. I think he'll be a gun for us.
Yeah, yep. Showing plenty of promise, and that's what we got him for. Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on Lewis and Jones?
I've had enough of Geordie Lewis, to be honest.
I'm not sure we should be.
It's interesting to see him, playing in the middle for extended periods again this week. Yeah.
I'm not sure we should be playing Lewis, given that he won't be there next year. I'd be happy to give a guy like James Jordan some games under his belt without the pressure of us having to win. I'm not talking tanking. I just think it's good preparation for next year to give a young kid who, from all reports, he's been good in the twos, and just to give him some games under his belt. I don't think that can hurt. I don't know if we should be persisting with Lewis, really.
Yeah, well, the club sort of said, we're still, we've got his leadership out there, which is important, and I don't know. Maybe he is still giving that direction and guidance out there, but there's not a lot beyond that he's offering.
You know what? I think that leadership maybe when
the thing that annoyed me about his game on the weekend. Sorry, I've just been reminded about it because I haven't watched the replay again. I only watched it at the time. Too many occasions he tackled with his hands on the weekend, not his arms but his hands, and that is absolutely weak as piss, and it's not good enough. For anyone, and particularly for a player of that seniority.
Where are you at with Jonesy?
George is just saying that Lewis tagged Bontempelli out of the game, so maybe I missed that whole aspect of it.
But Bontempelli played a little bit up forward as well, and definitely wasn't on for the game. Missed some easy ones, dropped the ball. So I don't know. Yeah, and I must admit, I wasn't watching who was tagging who. So, George, if you think you tagged him out of the game, then all right, I'll take your word for it.
Look, the other thing is, and this is where our own sort of biases come in, I've given up on Lewis. So I suppose when I see his game now, I see the flaws more than anything. And those things stand out and get highlighted to me, such as the tackling with the hands, which just looked really average on the weekend. It happened more than once.
Kicked a ripper goal. I was right behind the goals then. That was nice. Actually, he sort of picked the ball out from the ruck contest. But that's
we needed every. Excuse me. We needed everyone that we could get.
Where are you at with Jonesy? Sometimes he can look a bit cooked at times, and I guess thinking with your head and not your heart. Does he go around again next year? I obviously think they're not going to delist him or anything like that. I think
I'm going to take the easy option out and say let's see how he goes in the final 6 or however many weeks it is.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to leave the heart out of this question.
It's so hard.
And look, it does. Some players, the end comes quicker than others. But Jones had quite a few decent games earlier in the year, and was playing well at a time when others weren't. So don't write him off just yet.
No, I'm not.
I agree, though. At times he does look. It looks like it's catching up with him.
Yeah.
But that could also just be, and we've discussed this on previous weeks, the players knowing deep inside that the year is done, and so that extra effort and energy is missing, and perhaps that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the absence of that. So that could be part of the equation too, rather than him being finished as such.
So there's a thread on Demon Land, gains amid the wreckage, which is season 2019. What are your...
Well done to the poster there, Pitmaster, because I like to see positive threads. There's a sea of negativity online, and I get that too. Some people have been following for a long time and have had a gutful, but I like to see the positives, the silver lining there in the clouds, and that's what Pitmaster's done, and others have contributed. And there are a lot of positives to the year, and I've got no doubt that in totality it'll be a good learning experience for everybody, both players and coaches. So we'll come out stronger at the end of this, and hopefully those gains can help build something good next season.
So what are your silver linings of this disastrous year?
Well, Marty, as we mentioned before, Marty Hoare is one of them.
Yep.
Harrison Petty could turn out to be one of them. I think Lockhart's shown plenty. Oscar Baker's shown a bit. There's promise there. As College Asney pointed out in the thread, Jaden Hunt has rediscovered the mojo which he lost last year. And actually, we should have mentioned him before. I know we said Max and Salem have had very good years, but Jaden Hunt's had a pretty good year too.
Yeah, like to see a bit more consistency, but he's been one of our leading goal kickers this year. I'm not sure if he still is, or if not, he's his first or second. So yeah, he's had a good year.
Yep. And as you pointed out earlier, we're going to get a pretty decent pick in the draft, and possibly a much easier draw too. So look, and there's also, we've got 6 weeks now to work on things and to get creative, to refine the plan, develop other plans, which seems to be the most important thing on Demon Land. Have backup plans, don't just have the one. So yeah, I'm a glass half full person on these things.
All right, well, it certainly will be an interesting sort of end to the year, and then going into the trade period. That might be the most exciting thing about our season. Hopefully we do feature in that, and hopefully we don't get bent over a barrel, as a lot of people seem to think we do every trade period. So let's hope we're holding some cards.
Or we blink first.
Yep.
Or both, actually.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yes.
Blinking as we're bent over.
That's true. All right. Moving along. If you would... Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, talking about the silver linings, I mentioned College Asney, the poster there. Do we know what's happening with College Asney, the player? Is there any good news coming out of that front?
Let me just consult. I had open before. Oh, I don't know where that's gone. I did have open. I might be on.
I should have done a bit of prep and found the answer out myself, I suppose.
I'll just...
Which is what a professional podcast person would do.
Yeah. That's if we had any professionalism in us. This is an amateur production. Make no mistake about that. They're
refurbishing the Demon Land studio at the moment.
Well, I am back.
Our archives are offline.
I am back in the Demon Land studio this week. If you were listening to the last 2 podcasts, I apologise for any sound issues with that. I didn't have my normal equipment, and I was also, the apartment that I was in had windows that were paper thin, so you could probably hear the sounds of the Gold Coast in the background. I do have our injury list in front of me. College Asney is still listed as TBC, so that's not a good thing. With that, I'm just perusing the article if there is anything about him, but it doesn't look like there actually is any mention of him in Misson's report, which isn't a good thing either. So, and it just says head. So I don't know if that's concussion, if that's neck related, what constitutes the head.
And I just note in Baghdad Bob's training report from Thursday that he wasn't sighted at training, so he's not doing anything at training either, or not not with the main group anyway. Out at Gosh's, maybe he's doing something indoors. Who knows?
So according to Misson, Wiedemann is starting to progress okay. He'll have a run today. He's probably a 50-50 chance of playing this week against West Coast. He said that Tim Smith will also look to push his case as he works towards a complete recovery from his injury concern. Smith has missed the past 2 matches after hurting his calf in round 15, with Misson confident of a return to full fitness. He had a significant rehab session today with a view to train on Thursday and then play on the weekend. So looks like he might be back. He went on to say Marty Hoare, Tom McDonald and Jeff Garlett have all undergone successful surgery in recent weeks, with the former the only one likely to return this season, meaning Marty Hoare. Marty is having his first run today, but he's probably a little bit slow with his range at the moment. He'll definitely miss this week and potentially next week as well. Tom is now 1 week post-off. That's Tom McDonald. He's off crutches and walking around, and someone did mention that they saw Tom. Did you see that on Demon Land? Someone saw and spoke to Tom and said that he's walking around and will be ready to go pre-season, won't miss anything. But then again, I did hear Jake Lever in preliminary final week last week saying he'd be aiming for round 1, and you know how that went. Tom said we'll get him into the gym next week to start doing some strength work with him. Jeff Garlett's surgery went well. They didn't find any more damage than what we thought was there. He'll probably be out of a sling later this week, and he's heading up to Alice Springs on Thursday to do some community work. Meanwhile, Jake Melksham foot, that's a one, Melksham, because he's been listed as either 4 to 6 or 3 to 4 weeks for forever. So Jake Melksham foot and Tom Sparrow knee are less than a month away. Well, that's almost the end of the year, with the duo looking to return to training next week, while Billy Stretch foot is on a similar timeline. Billy strung together a couple of runs now. He's just starting to do some agility work, which will tell us a little bit more about his progression moving forward. Then he does go on to talk about Aaron Vandenberg, who I'm very worried about. Aaron Vandenberg has had ongoing trouble with his foot this season. He's slowly making progress. Vanders has put together 5 or so sessions now. We're looking to start to increase his volume a little bit, but his time frame is yet to be confirmed. So I don't know if we're ever going to see Vanders play ever again, to be honest. If not, I don't know how long he'll be able to string together.
I think you're almost 100% right there. I don't really have any hope at all, unfortunately. Fingers crossed that, these periods of sort of rest and then reloading, unfortunately, haven't worked how many times now, so... Yep.
So we've got Smith and Wiedemann both listed as test, Marty Hoare 2 to 3, Stretch, Melksham, Sparrow 3 to 4 weeks, and Tommy Mack, Kolajasny and Vandenberg all TBC, and then Garlett, Joel Smith and the Nitschke and Walker seasons. Well, actually the guy Walker's shoulder one, he's listed as indefinite, so I don't know what the difference between season, indefinite and TBC are, so... Yeah. Fun and games. I didn't see... Well, I got to the game quite late due to train issues getting to the ground. I had to change train stations because apparently trains on my line weren't running on Sunday. So I missed... I was hoping to catch some of the Casey game, but didn't get to see it. Guessing it wasn't televised, or was it?
No, it was.
It was.
It was. Channel 7 had the full cut through. I didn't see all of it either. I actually tried to go to the footy and couldn't get near a train station, so I spent time going to a train station and then coming home, so I missed some of the Casey game, but then saw sort of the last part of it. But there's not many Melbourne players there.
No.
So it's thin pickings. Look, we've spoken about Kennedy Harris. I saw he had a few touches in the time that I was watching. For mine, he can't go any worse than Nibbler's going at the moment, and deserves, I reckon, to be given a chance. We've discussed that before. So, but beyond that, I don't think there was too much of note going on.
Yeah, just looking at the best, got Corey Wagner, Hutchins, who's not a Demons listed player, Kennedy Harris is in there, Maynard's in there, and Baker's in there as well.
Yeah. So I saw Baker going on a few runs, and actually I thought Corey Wagner provided a bit of spark. Now that you've just read that back to me, you jolted a couple of memories. So, those few players that were there did all right.
Yeah, I'd like to see us try a few things, whether they put JKH in or not, give him a last go. He's had 31 disposals, and he's only kicked a point. The Bedford, maybe if he's got a bit of spark, he didn't have a lot of touch. Looked like he only had 7 disposals, but he had 7 tackles. So I like that endeavour. And it's the same with Chandler as well. Didn't have much of it. Yet not much in there. Apparently Spargo didn't play, and he's not listed in the injury list either. So don't know what's happening there. There's a lot of.
He's just mystery of the week, is he?
Yeah, got a lot of those. All right. Well, what changes this week? What do you do?
Well, there's something. Well, we've got to wait and see on Wiedemann.
Yeah, Wiedemann and Smith.
Doesn't sound particularly promising.
Doesn't look like.
Read between the lines of what Misso's saying.
He's not playing this week.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Oh, is that not connected? Hello?
Hello,
fellas. Hold on a sec, big man. I just got to change the audio input so that you're coming through our mixer loud and clear. Just bear with me a second. Got Bin Man on the phone, Grapeviney, and
I'm not sure about this Bin Man caller. He had a really good season last year. Very mixed results in 2019, like the rest of the club. And I suspect that he's a bit like Goody and probably didn't watch the preliminary final. I'm not convinced about Bin Man. Let's see what he's got to offer this week.
Bin Man, I don't think you were able to hear Grapeviney then, were you? Oh, what have we got? All right. I'm on the fly. There it is. There it is. It is all connected now. Bin Man, good evening. You're on the air.
My phone has a app where when I get sledged, it automatically cuts off.
Could you actually hear what Grapeviney was saying?
Just the end of it, I heard that he wasn't convinced with my performance, and then my phone just went dead. So
I said that.
Like the team, I had a probably scratchy off season, maybe over-celebrated a little, maybe got ahead of myself, and it went downhill when I was relatively bullish about the West Coast game.
I apologise that you didn't get onto the air a bit earlier. The computer that your voice is coming through was the one I took away with me, and when I came back and connected it all up, I didn't connect one of the cables, so that's why you weren't on.
You're on the Gold Coast, weren't you? You didn't buy it from the Gold Coast Footy Club, one of their communication tools, or? No,
I didn't.
They're having a fire sale of everything and everyone there, so get in quick.
Yeah, players, everything, coaching staff.
Well, don't be too hard on them. They're the thing keeping us away from a wooden spoon this year. So, yeah.
Did you go to the game on the weekend, Bin Man?
I did go to the game, and my first thought was my eyes must be going, but I couldn't see across the other side of the ground. It looked so murky. I'm thinking it's a $1 billion stadium, and I would have maybe not that much, but the lighting is terrible. I think they released they did a little bit of a firecracker show beforehand or something, and
It didn't clear.
the smoke seems not to have cleared. It was like watching it in the English pea fog for a while there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was behind sort of the goals at one end, and I found it very difficult to see the other end of the ground. And I forgot about the little fireworks display and fire display they put on before the game. So yeah, it definitely had an effect. Yeah.
It's hard to watch that game. I haven't gone back and watched the replay. I was actually more frustrated with that game than I have been with many games. The last time I was probably that frustrated was the Saints game, where, I thought I was actually really confident we were going to win that game, and I changed my tip from Melbourne on the morning back to Bulldogs. So that was the one positive, or two Bulldogs, one positive from the day for me. Kept me near the top of my tipping contest. But we match up well against them. I think we've beaten them the last 3 times. They don't really have a forward line that, Norton is definitely a gun player, but Shackies don't rate him hugely. I think our game style, they don't expose us on the spread. It's a smaller venue, which again helps us with that issue with the spread. I just think that I could not believe how ropeable I was. I don't normally get that upset about Fritsch's decision to play on. You might have already spoken to about it. I only came in 15 minutes ago, but I looked down and I couldn't believe it. I said to my mate, "What happened?" He said he's taken the shot. I said, "It was only 25 metres out," and he goes back and kicks that. We're 1 point down with a full, as it turns out, 2.5 minutes to play. He would have looked up at the clock at that stage. It was only 26.5 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
It was inexplicable decision, and it really spoke to me of a sort of mental fragility that's not just him, but the rest of the team seems to have just not been able to get past this year.
So do you think he thought there wasn't time, or what do you think was going through his head?
I can't believe he thought that, because I looked up at the clock and thought it was 26.5 minutes. There's heaps of time, and there's heaps. And he would have had the boundary line, maybe he didn't have the sort of wherewithal to look at the boundary line, but they would have had a sign up saying how long. But 26.5 minutes, average quarter's 30. The second quarter went to 32 minutes. So, there's no way, I would have thought, if it's 29.5, 30, sure, maybe he's under pressure. But even if my mate was saying, when we argued about this a little bit, he said, well, exactly that, maybe he was under pressure time-wise, but he could have just gone back and taken a set shot and only taken 15 seconds to do it. It could never have been the difference between a win and a loss, except if he did what he did and missed the ball. I think he was rattled because down the other end, he missed an absolute soda from about the same distance, albeit on the other side, from about 25 metres 30, where he hit the post, you might recall. And I just reckon he was worried he's going to miss it. And, he's a beautiful kick normally.
Yeah, I think I disagree on this one, Ben, man. And I think it goes back to George's point in the chat room earlier about players sort of, willing to take the responsibility on. And I think he backed his skills in and backed himself to do it. And I think he mucked the execution up. And I get the anger. It was hard to tell. I wasn't at the game. I was at home, and he took it so quickly. The cameras actually missed it. They were replaying because it was a free kick, wasn't it, rather than a mark, or was it a mark that he took?
No, it was a mark, and it was a nice bit of play, sort of tic-tacking down the ground, and that was the other frustrating thing of not taking advantage of it. But yeah, it was a mark.
Anyway, they were showing the replay of the mark, and then they came back, and it was a point. And you sort of say, I missed the actual plan, but I sort of tend to think that, if you're confident about doing it, then go for it. But he obviously got it wrong.
I get that, but I've not seen him take that shot across the body. Like out the other end, he didn't. He had exactly the same distance and chose to do the logical thing and take a set shot. So I haven't seen him take many shots from around the body. And, I guess I take the point, but maybe it's a sort of thing across the league, but surely the percentage play, if you work out the percentages of kicking that ball through, it's a set shot, take your time, and kick a drop punt through the goals as the percentage play. Maybe that's a bit old school, and everyone seems to like to turn it around the body
as
at
you
the moment. But
percentage play. So yep.
Whichever choice he made, he then had to execute and kick the goal. So maybe even if you let him off the hook for making that call, he missed.
Yeah, sure.
And then that was really a game. But to be honest, it was actually quite ironic watching it, because the third quarter was like watching us in the mirror. They should have been 4 or 5 goals up. They dominated that quarter, couldn't put us away, and we just seemed sort of completely listless and didn't really have any sort of flow going in that quarter. But that's what happens, I guess, is, if you can hold off momentum, it's happened to us all year, hasn't it? We haven't taken advantage of the momentum. The other team have got ahead of us. The Adelaide Crows game and the West Coast game are the two best examples of that.
Yeah, I mean, the ball was locked in their forward line for large parts of that third quarter. And look, not all of the opportunities that they had were gimmies. Quite a few of them were sort of those half chances, but could easily have been 4 or 5 goals. 5 goals to the good from where they were, for sure.
And one thing that really stood out for me watching the game actually was how much better their overhead marking was than ours. I mean, like, I've been lamenting on Demonland all year, and I've mentioned it on the podcast a few times, but how bad our kicking is. But that game, they were just marking the ball so much better than us. Partly that was a function of their kicking to advantage was better, but even when we were kicking the ball, maybe to our disadvantage, but they were killing us in the air, and we didn't seem to have anyone who could take the ball and mark it and stop it. Proust missed a couple of clangers, and Oliver had a couple where he really should have swallowed them and missed them, and as did, I think, Brayshaw missed a couple of gettable marks as well. So we just couldn't seem to stop the ball in the air.
Do you think that has anything to do with the stadium and the lighting, perhaps, that we're not used to and they are used to? Not sure if that's a valid excuse.
This is why we're 16th. It's because of this bloody light and smoke business at Marvel.
We were also slipping. I won't say tripping. We were slipping over quite a bit, and I didn't notice them doing it too much. And it's obviously not wet. So do we have the right boots for this stadium?
That happened earlier in the year too. I noticed on a number of occasions where players have slipped up. So I don't know what's happened to the old screw-in stops. They were the good ones, weren't they?
Yeah. Always missing it. I was always missing a couple on my boots.
I hope they weren't tripping, but some of those players weren't moving all that freely. I didn't think Lewis was moving all that freely. I don't know about tripping, but he was at one point. I had to laugh where he kicked that goal, and he kicked it like it was the right thing to do, not bend down and pick it up. But it wasn't as if he had a choice, because he wasn't going to bend down and pick it up.
He would have got caught.
He would have got caught. So he made the right call, but it was like an old man's kick at the ball. And I thought he played all right. I thought Jones played better than some gave him credit for, and I've liked him on the halfback flank actually.
Do you think, we talked about it a bit earlier, but do you think we should be playing Lewis now, given that he's not going to be there at the end of the year? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a tough one, because I think actually it relates to Jones, because Jones is playing his best football for the season in the position that Lewis started the season in.
But they're not playing. They're not playing Lewis in that position though. Now,
in the centre.
Yeah. They're playing him in the centre. Yeah.
They played him in the centre in the last couple of weeks on the weekend, which allows Jones to go back. And clearly Brayshaw's injured. I have no question in my mind that he's carrying something. So they're not putting him in for big minutes in the centre. So someone has to go in there. Yeah. And then who's that then? If it's not Lewis, maybe it's Wagner, or I don't know. So I think it's actually really just circumstance that's getting him game time.
Well, I don't know if you heard us earlier talking about Brayshaw, but I said that he's definitely carrying an injury, and should we be playing him and not getting him cherry ripe for next year? Because I think he's been playing with an injury for most of the year.
No, I didn't hear that, but he evidently is. Like, he's evidently, like, there's something. It's also his attack on the ball is not quite where it was.
No.
Whether he's protecting himself a little, but I think Oliver's the same as well. Oliver doesn't quite look. Look, I think that's really the story of the season, and it'll come out post-season. You'll hear about these players. It always happens. You know, we couldn't get the full pre-season, and just like when Jones, we found out 2 seasons ago, I think it was, that he had a broken neck for half the season, or a neck injury, not a broken neck. But we only found that out 6 weeks into pre-season. That will all come out, and you know, again, as I've talked about before, it's footy culture not to blame injury, but we just haven't had a fair crack at it, and we've not got a good depth. We don't have the depth. So, you know, I put on Demonland a couple of weeks ago. We've got Dunkley, who was playing under 18 footy just 2 months ago, and we've got Jay Lockhart, who was playing in Tasmania last year, wasn't he? So
is unloading.
In an average season, they're not playing, are they?
Yeah, he was unloading shipping containers just a couple of weeks ago. Someone said pre-game that there was a cloud over Clary, that they had heard something somewhere. He certainly didn't look like he was the Clary of old, so perhaps there is something to it. Maybe Clary was also carrying some injury too.
Well, I mean, he has shoulder surgery, didn't he? So there was talk earlier in the season about him releasing the ball really quickly to avoid that contact, and you know, I think there's probably something in that.
Yeah. Yep.
What else, Bidman? What other thing? What else can you tell us?
Well, it's actually, I think there's been a really interesting discussion on Demonland in the last week or so about game style. It's been going on all season to a degree, and even in the last season, but it's crystallised a little bit in the last week or so in terms of this notion that our game plan doesn't stack up. My personal view is that you can't really make an assessment of that given what's happened this season, and that if Goodwin believes in this game plan, then it makes no sense to deviate away from it this season and try some other game style. If he thinks this is the one that's going to get us a flag, then we've got to keep playing it. The jury's out, and I can see the argument why the sort of chaotic crash and bash game plan has its limitations. But I think that this is not the year to assess that. And I find it interesting, actually, the sort of rise at the moment of Richmond. We have a very similar game plan to them. They've adjusted theirs a little. So have we. I think that's not given much credit. We're definitely holding the ball more and chipping it around. But they've got their last 6 games at the G. They're likely to win 5 of 6 of them. They'll push for top 4. They made prelim last year with that game plan. We made prelim. They won the flag before. So I think people can get sort of persuaded too easily by recent history. And, you know, I'm really hopeful that our game plan will stack up and that they stay the course on it.
Well, the pressure's certainly going to be on the coach next year. He definitely can't afford to have another year like this. I know we don't want to make excuses. We've had the injuries, but with a few coaches falling already this year, the media loves getting on people's backs, and I think he's had a bit of a pass this year, but he won't get a pass next year, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah. If all things return to normal and we've got we don't have the horror injury stretch that we've had this year and all those pre-season surgeries, then we go back to sort of level pegging, and hopefully we get a clearer read on where this team and where this list and where this coaching group are at. But I'm like Ben, man, I've still got faith, and I think it's some of the talk on Demonland in that Goodwin the right guy thread is just outrageous. And you've got people who are effective, who are trying trying to argue that all the good that's happened under Goodwin is a result of ruse, and the only thing really on Simon's shoulders is what's happened this year, and I don't think that stacks up at all.
Well, not only doesn't it stack up, it actually contradicts. Some of those same posters were highly critical of Goodwin's game plan insofar as it moved away from ruse. And ruse has been actually quite critical himself, I've heard, in the media, of his man-on-man defensive style. He talks about it all the time, playing on the defender playing on the forward's hip, which is a completely different to what Goodwin does. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say that Goodwin's come in and riding on Ruse's coattails, but that he's changed the game plan around completely, and that's got us to a prelim. But now we're seeing the flaws in it. There is a question about whether that sort of chaotic style can stack up in a full season, and I think that's what's happening in AFL. It's such a ballistic sport that make 23 rounds is a lot has to go right. Which is why I think, what we're seeing a little bit, the scoring is so low, partly because teams aren't really wanting to press the go button. They're holding off to make the finals, essentially, like they do in NFL and in other sports where the sort of key game is get to the finals.
Yep. Yeah. I once had a chat to a guy involved with the GPS technology that goes in the back of the jumpers, and he was saying that, in terms of the sports science guys, they're looking at 3 peak things: peaking at the right time of the day, and the right time of the week, and then the right time of the year. And that's you've got those 3 constant goals, but the main one is to be at your absolute peak there at the end of the year, at the business end of the season, when the real stuff's being played.
So given our interrupted pre-season, we should be peaking right about Christmas time, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Slightly off kilter this year, but hopefully we'll get it back on course.
Yeah. I will say, though, that doesn't change my view at all that we've made some bad decisions. We've put a lot of eggs in the contested ball basket. I was totally against getting rid of Watts. I understand and respect the decision why, and I understand Ruse's. Ruse is the man. He makes those calls, and he lives. All the coaches live and die on those calls. So it was his call, and I get the reasons for culture and those sorts of things. But our lack of ability to hit targets inside 50 has been the most commented on thing by everyone this year, external and footy Melbourne fans. And he was the best at it for the last 10 years at the club, and by far the best kick, better than Salem, better than anyone. He certainly wouldn't have run around and kicked that arm around his body like Fritter did. He would have gone back and slotted it. It'd only taken 5 seconds probably to do it. But we really do need, it's been discussed ad nauseum, we need outside run, but we need some elite kicks. That's where we're really getting hurt. And the problem is it's a hard fix, because even if you do it through the draft, there's no guarantee they'll be impacting straight away. And it's easier said than done to go out to the trade market and pick up an elite level kick. Someone like a Suckling, who was, that's who we should have targeted 3 years ago, Suckling, or Savage, and that's the sort of play we really need.
Be an interesting off-season, that's for sure. B-Man, anything else before we wrap things up?
No, that's all from me.
Great, Viney, anything from you?
No, I think we've done it justice.
I take it neither of you are off to the Alice this week?
I'd love to be. I've been to the Alice game once, and it's a lovely place to watch football and seemingly to play football. None of the humidity issues that you get in Darwin, and it's a nice ground there. So, I don't think we're going to have too nice a time on the weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to take one of my daughters up there this week, but she has dancing practice on Sunday that she can't miss as part of her dancing troupe. So that was all messed up. So maybe next year. Are we still going to the Alice next year? When does this end?
Never.
Never. We're stuck. We're stuck. What do you think in terms of we're playing with this year Adelaide and West Coast? I'm willing to bet there'll be a big West Coast contingent going over there. Who would you prefer to play up there? Would you prefer to play those teams that are going to probably bring in a bigger crowd, or?
I'm not fussed about the crowd. And look, what are the alternatives? You don't want to be playing big-name Victorian clubs there.
No, but maybe one of the expansion teams.
Yeah,
no?
But if you said, let's play the, Gold Coast there or whoever it is, Gold Coast and St Kilda, then people would be saying, you're taking a certain win at the G and maybe turning it into a 50-50 because it's a neutral ground. So there are arguments against whoever you play. And I think this whole business of the crowd, big deal if a crowd of 4,000 people or 5,000 people is sort of against you. I mean, that's suburban footy numbers. So, not a factor for mine.
I actually quite like the Adelaide game because we stumped them and we looked $1 million. So I'd love to play them every year up there and make them our bunny up there.
Well, we played them in Alice Springs last year. That's correct. Yeah, it was the reverse.
And we were dynamite in that match. We were just absolutely dynamite. So
yeah.
What happened?
This game is Alice Springs, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not thinking Darwin. I haven't got this confused.
Yeah, no, we played Adelaide in Alice last year. We played the Alice game first last year. They've reversed it. I'm not sure why they've done that this year, but are they doing a big thing production like they did last year?
It is, but it's not as big because it's not taking place in the Doug Nicholls round. So we've missed the rest of the fuss that happens around Indigenous players, but Channel 7 is still putting a fair commitment to it, and it's still called the Heart of the Nation game, and good to know that the club's doing their usual community work up there, so there's still a lot invested in turning it into a good spectacle, which is great, I think, for all involved.
And it's terrific that West Coast are coming off a really demoralising win. That's great for us, really. It's we'll play them at their very best. So if we do win, we will earn it. But I think we can pinch this one, maybe. I think we can win from here on in. We might be a spoiler. We can knock off some sides on the way through and hopefully damage their top 4 chances or final 8 chances, and hopefully we'll get no more significant injuries.
Yeah. All right, boys. Thank you very much for your contributions tonight, and we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Grapevine, thank you, and Bin Man, thank you as well.
Go Demons.
Let's go those Demons. All right, thanks, Bin Man. We'll chat with you hopefully next week.